After an amazing night on a billionaire's arms, she discovers his incredible truth: he calls her. Sarah stood at the entrance of the glimmering estate, her pulse racing as she attempted to swallow the knot of insecurity lodged in her throat. This charity gala, organized by the town's wealthiest resident, was everything she had never experienced: luxury, elegance, and an absence of responsibility. She wore a borrowed dress that clung to her frame, embodying the recompense for every sacrifice she had endured. But as she took in the grand ballroom with its towering chandeliers and elaborate displays of wealth, she questioned her decision to leave the comforting hum of her children's laughter at home. Would they judge her here? Did elegant champagne and gourmet hors-d'oeuvres overcome dusted with judgmental eyes? As she navigated between towering columns, she felt the pressure of others' expectations, like a weight pressing down that made her shoulders ache. Life as a single mother required balancing acts and sacrifices, yet those who consumed champagne and laughed with abandon seemed worlds away from her struggle to pay rent and keep the fridge stocked. Each moment spent in this lavish environment felt like an insufferable reminder of how inadequate her worth felt outside the walls of her classroom. And then she met Alex. His warm smile greeted her, and for a fleeting second, the doubts receded. They spoke, sharing stories of family and the rewarding chaos nestled within education. For the first time that evening, Sarah felt a flicker of pride in her work, a reminder that her path, though strewn with hardships, still resonated with purpose. Yet, she noticed a shadow over Alex's bright demeanor, something hidden beneath the surface. Did all this wealth come with burdens she couldn't imagine? She hesitated, feeling a deeper connection, but also questioning the cost of such an entanglement. As the evening progressed, the laughter blended with music, and the allure was overwhelming. But with every swirl of the dance floor, unease clawed at her conscience. A voice inside whispered that mingling with the elite wouldn't erase her own struggles. And yet, Alex seemed genuine. He listened, understood the trials she faced. Didn't they share a dream of creating better futures for their families? Just when Sarah dared to believe this rich world offered her glimpses of happiness, a flicker of fear ignited inside her. Was she worthy of such dreams? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With resolve hardening in her chest, Sarah slipped away from the crowd, seeking solitude in a hidden corridor lined with portraits whispering tales of lives before her. But what she discovered sent her spiraling. A collection of documents, laden with her grandmother's name, echoed through a history of economic struggles tied to Alex's family. Panic seized her. How could she be entangled with someone whose very lineage seemed to reinforce the inequities her family once battled against? The tension in her chest tightened, her heartbeat drumming in her ears as the air thickened. Caught between the intoxicating possibilities offered by Alex and her fear of repeating her family's history, she wrestled with conflicting emotions, the allure of romance battling against generations of hard-fought dignity. Just as despair settled deep, Alex appeared, grounding her in that chaotic moment. He pulled her into a hushed corner, eyes dark with urgency. "Sarah, there's something you need to know about my past, something that might change everything." The breath hitched in her throat as the weight of the words loomed, amplifying the turmoil within her. Could love flourish in the shadows of secrets? Would they rise or falter against the tide of their contrasting legacies? Sarah felt the walls of the hidden corridor closing in around her as the gravity of Alex's words reeled through her mind. Her instincts screamed at her to flee, but the intensity in his gaze anchored her to the spot. Each heartbeat felt like a countdown, and her breaths grew shallower. What could be so significant? The lingering taste of champagne and the sweet cadence of laughter from the gala outside danced mockingly against the backdrop of this weighty moment. "Can we talk somewhere more private?" Alex's voice was hushed, but the urgency was palpable. He motioned towards the lavishly decorated room adjoining the corridor. Sarah nodded mechanically, her thoughts swirling with uncertainty. Once inside, the atmosphere shifted. They stood facing each other amidst splashes of velvet and gold, yet the world outside seemed to fade away. "This isn't easy for me," Alex continued, his brow furrowing. "My family they've not always been what they seem. There's a history here, and it's entangled with yours." His revelation hung in the air, dense and suffocating. Was she ready to hear this? Every fiber of her being warned her that delving deeper into this unexpected connection could either strengthen her resolve or shatter the fragile pieces she'd painstakingly rebuilt. "What do you mean?" Sarah asked, barely able to keep the tremor out of her voice. "Your grandmother was once part of our lives, involved in business with my father," he explained, steeling himself. "But there was a fallout, a betrayal that echoes through our families to this day. Generational wealth masks so much pain, but it's shackled to me, as well. I thought I could leave it behind, but it's woven into everything I do, every decision I make." The walls of her world seemed to tilt. The prospect of Alex being as marred by the past as she was brought a strange comfort and echoed her own fears of stepping into a life beyond her current existence. "So, you mean we're connected through more than just chance?" she asked, a mix of confusion and fascination flickering in her chest. "Yes, but more than that," he affirmed, moving closer. "I know what it's like to feel trapped by expectations, Sarah. Just like you, I fight every day to break free from that weight. The truth is, I don't want to live in the shadow of my family's legacy anymore. I want to forge my own path." A bond formed in the wake of their shared burden, but she also felt unease wrapping around her heart. "I've devoted my life to my children and my passion for teaching. How do I make sense of the differences between our lives?" Sarah's voice quivered with doubt, but her determination began to take shape. "You say we share a fight, but you navigate ballrooms and boardrooms while I navigate the daily struggles of motherhood. How can this work?" Alex's gaze sharpened, revealing a depth of emotion that commanded attention. "Because we both want change. Our backgrounds don't define us, we can redefine our paths." For the first time since the gala began, Sarah felt a glimmer of hope. Could she hold on to her identity while treading new ground? As the internal conflict brewed, she inhaled deeply, contemplating the rawness of her previous struggles and the unfamiliar allure of new possibilities. But as they stood on the precipice of potential, Sarah questioned whether she could truly step into the unknown that beckoned before her or if she would be swallowed by the dark echoes of history. Just as the flicker of resolve sparked anew, the glamorous exterior of the event erupted into a clamor, shadows creeping back into the corners of her mind. "Sarah, what do you think?" Alex's inquiry broke her train of thought, urgency still rippling in his tone. The answer still lay blurry and undefined in her heart, dancing like the reflections of the chandeliers overhead. With the past looming large and the future uncertain, her next words could change everything. "Before I answer that," she started, the weight of her decision growing, "I need to know something else about you. What are you willing to sacrifice for freedom from your family's expectations?" The question lingered, paralyzing the air around them. A moment stretched between them, no escaping the tension of what those sacrifices might reveal. The silence hung heavy, thick with anticipation, as Alex's eyes flickered with uncertainty. Did he expect this question? The vulnerability in his expression served as a mirror to her own apprehension. Sarah knew this inquiry could expose weaknesses, unravel truths they both arguably didn't want to confront. "What am I willing to sacrifice?" he echoed, processing her words. A brief moment passed, allowing Sarah to catch a glimpse of the emotional turmoil beneath his composed exterior. "Everything," he finally replied, voice steadier than before. "If it means breaking free from the chains that have defined me, I would risk it all. But I don't even know what that everything would look like, in practical terms." I've spent most of my life maintaining a facade, keeping the peace at all costs." His honesty struck a chord within her. She understood that burden, the incessant balancing of responsibility and the desire for authenticity. Her own sacrifices came to mind, late nights grading papers, the moments she brushed aside personal aspirations for the sake of her children's needs. "I'm scared to sacrifice what little normalcy I've built," she admitted, her cheeks flushing with a mix of shame and bravery. "I love my kids. I wouldn't want to jeopardize their stability or our home." But then again she hesitated, grappling with the weight of her thoughts. What if I'm sacrificing my own happiness in the process? Alex stepped closer. "You don't have to choose between being a good mother and living for yourself. It's possible to navigate this unknown without losing sight of your core values." His words resonated within her, a chord stirred from within the depths she had concealed for so long. Could it be that the life of a dedicated parent and a woman pursuing fulfillment weren't mutually exclusive? As she studied Alex, Sarah saw not just a man burdened by family expectations, but a kindred spirit willing to break free. They were at a crossroads, and the potential to transform their collective pain into a source of strength burgeoned in the air between them. "Have you ever considered that maybe the past doesn't have to dictate your future?" Alex suggested, eyes locked onto hers. "What if we leaned into our shared histories instead of running from them? Perhaps there's an opportunity to redefine our legacies not as victims of our families, but as architects of our own destinies." His proposition sent waves of self-reflection crashing over her. Could she really venture into this collaboration with him, not just as allies against their burdens, but as partners? The questions flooded her mind. What shape would this partnership take? What risks could she afford to embrace? "I've never thought about it quite like that," Sarah mused, uncertainty mingling with intrigue. "But I feel unprepared. What steps do we even take?" "Let us start small," Alex urged. "You teach, which means you inspire. What if we created a program or platform together? Something that uplifts and empowers others like us to pursue balance. Think of it as reclaiming our narratives." Her pulse quickened at the prospect, igniting a spark she thought she had long extinguished. The idea was both exhilarating and terrifying. The chance to blend the raw honesty of her experiences with her professional abilities set off a chain reaction of possibilities in her mind. But still, she hesitated. "That would mean putting myself out there, risking criticism, and potentially failing. What if I can't handle the fallout from that?" "It's all part of the journey," he smiled gently. "We won't have it all figured out overnight. We'll learn as we go. No venture comes without its challenges." As his warmth enveloped her, Sarah felt the walls around her heart begin to crack. The urgency of their shared moment spurred her toward acceptance, a small, powerful realization blossoming within her. "I think I'm ready to explore this," she said, her voice steadying. The doubt still lingered, but she would take this leap, this venture into unknown territory, for her and her children's future. Just as relief washed over her, echoing the affirmations of their tentative agreement, the sounds from the gala filtered back into the room: muffled laughter, the soft clink of glasses, and the rustling of silk. It was a reminder that outside this sheltered space, life continued as normal. "Let us find a way to make this real," Alex urged, the fire of ambition igniting in his voice. But just as she prepared to respond, the tension in the air shifted. Alex's phone buzzed sharply, cutting through their fragile moment. He glanced at the screen, eyes widening in alarm. "Hold on, I need to take this," he said hurriedly, stepping a few paces back. As he took the call, Sarah's curiosity sharpened. What could be so urgent? A flicker of unease raced through her. Would the past catch up to him, to her, before they even had the chance to step forward together? Alex's brows knitted in concern as he spoke urgently, leaving Sarah alone with her tumultuous thoughts. The next move felt heavier than any before, her decision poised on a precipice, ready to shape not just her direction, but the future of this unexpected alliance. Would their paths realign, or would a shadow from the past threaten to upend everything? The room pulsed with an unseen tension, the visible exhilaration of the gala muted under the weight of Sarah's uncertainty. She glanced at Alex, whose back was turned as he paced slightly, his voice low and urgent, contrasting sharply with the festive ambience. The excitement that had sparked between them moments ago felt fragile now, like a delicate glass sculpture teetering on the edge of a precipice. How quickly the energy shifted. The initial promise of partnership felt overshadowed by a creeping realization that their individual paths were fraught with complications they had yet to fully confront. What if Alex's call revealed something that would change everything? Would it erase their immediate camaraderie, unraveling the fragile thread binding them together? She forced herself to breathe in the midst of her swirling thoughts, the air thickening as she processed her emotions. Vulnerability. Responsibility. The duality of ambition and fear was becoming all too familiar. She was on the verge of reshaping her future but was perilously tethered to her past. Sarah moved away from the seductive whispers of the gala, seeking solace in the polished wood of the balcony railing. She watched partygoers, their faces flushed with alcohol and laughter, finding escape in their merriment. Strangely, their joy felt sharper against her growing anxiety. Was there a part of her that longed to join them, to be free from her existential dilemmas? Just then, a rush of stubborn determination ignited within her. This moment was hers to seize, and she refused to allow external noise or internal fears to dictate her narrative any longer. If Alex was confronting something pivotal, she could either stand by him or retreat to the safety of her caution. And wasn't it time to redefine her version of bravery? As Alex wrapped up his call, she turned to face him, ready to embrace whatever truth lay ahead. His expression morphed while he returned, torn between relief and worry, a reflection of the very turmoil they had discussed. "What was that?" Sarah asked, a cautious edge to her tone, testing the waters of this newfound clarity. He hesitated, the weight of his decision ebbing and flowing in his features. "It was my brother," he began slowly. "He's in a bit of trouble, something I need to address. It complicates things." At that moment, an icy tendril of doubt coiled around Sarah's heart, but she shook it off. What did it mean for them? "Do you need to go? Is this something that'll take you away from what we talked about?" "No, I want to see this through," he replied, pushing a hand through his hair, revealing the vulnerability of a man caught between duties. "But I have to confront my past in order to move forward." The resonance of his words struck deeper than any they had shared before. They were bound not only by their ambitions but by the weight of their histories. A gentler resolve anchored her now, the thought of pushing through the unknown, the chance for their partnership to be a transformative force. "What if I helped?" Sarah found herself saying, her voice gaining strength. "I may not have the answers for your brother's situation, but if you're facing it, maybe we tackle it side by side, like we've discussed." Surprised, Alex met her gaze with an intensity that sent shivers along her spine. "You'd want that? To dive into the chaos?" "I'm tired of letting fear define my choices," she affirmed, steadying her breath. "We've already stepped into a partnership, whether about our aspirations or our individual battles. Let us make it all count." His eyes softened with understanding, a flicker of gratitude melding with determination. "All right," he agreed, a hint of warmth breaking through. "We'll navigate this together." The energy shifted anew, what once felt dangerous became a shared voyage. Each of them, armed with their own burdens, now leaning on one another not just for support but for empowerment. As they transitioned back to the gathering, Sarah's resolve pivoted. She was ready to push open the door to a bolder, albeit uncertain future. But as they moved through the thrumming crowd, another message buzzed on Alex's phone. He pulled it out, his face draining of color. "It's from my brother again," he muttered under his breath, tension returning. "We may need to move faster than I thought." Sarah braced herself instinctively, specializing in the weighty truth that their forward momentum was now intertwined with the urgency of the past. As they lost themselves in the throng of revelry, she felt it a seismic shift ahead, commanding them to act before the shadows closed in again. What awaited them just beyond the revelry, in the dim light of unresolved histories, would challenge everything they had begun to build. The echoes of the past were rising, unrelenting, demanding their attention. Sarah's heart pounded as she matched Alex's pace, the fire in his eyes igniting her own resolve. The fleeting moments of connection they had shared now echoed ominously against the weight of unspoken truths. She clenched her fists at her sides, determined not to let the uncertainty of their future crush the burgeoning partnership they had forged. They maneuvered through the swarm of partygoers, laughter ringing loudly in Sarah's ears, each sound like a hammer striking the anvil of her anxiety. She wanted nothing more than to revel in the merriment, but instead, she felt pulled deeper into the shifting shadows of Alex's world, shadows she was committed to illuminating. "What do we need to do?" she asked, her voice steady despite the turmoil brewing inside her. Every bit of information she received about Alex's brother could alter their trajectory, but she wouldn't let fear dictate her willingness to engage. Alex glanced at her, a complex mix of emotions clouding his expression. "We need to head to his place. He is scared, and I don't want him to feel like he is alone in this. If we confront whatever issue he is facing, I think it could strengthen both of us." Her gut twisted at the urgency in his tone, but something else surged, a fierce sense of purpose. Facing challenges had never felt so necessary, but then again, she had never cared this deeply for someone else's plight. "Then that's what we'll do," Sarah replied, her voice a little louder now, an invocation of the power she just realized she possessed. "Let us tackle whatever it is together. I'm all in." As they made their way toward the exit, the vibrant atmosphere of the gala faded behind them. The immediate momentum propelled them forward into a space teeming with uncertainty yet pulsing with potential. Each step felt like shedding layers of her old self, fearful and hesitant in favor of a version of herself steeped in courage. Outside, the air was crisp and sharp, awakening her senses. The build-up of adrenaline coursed through her veins, heightening her awareness of Alex at her side. He was no longer just a partner in ambition but shared a newfound bond of shared burdens. The car ride was a blur of silent anticipation, the streets flickering past as the city lights blurred into one long stream of luminescence. Alex's phone buzzed incessantly, a cruel reminder of the storm they were heading into. The weight of his brother's turmoil loomed ahead, each ominous vibration a reminder of the conflicts waiting to erupt. With every passing moment, Sarah's resolve solidified. She mentally catalogued her strengths, her insights, and her belief that they could navigate the chaos together. What if this situation helped to unlock more than just new paths for them individually? What if they emerged more whole and effective in their goals? As they arrived, Alex turned to her, vulnerability amalgamating with determination. "I really appreciate you doing this. I know it's not easy for you to step into the uncertainty of my life." She met his gaze, the sincerity reflecting back at her, fortifying her choice. "You're worth it, Alex. Besides, stepping into the unknown is the only way to grow." After a deep breath, he nodded, signaling his readiness. He squeezed her hand briefly, then led the way into the stark building before them, the threshold marked by the heavy scent of apprehension. The confrontation would be a turning point for Alex, for his brother, and for Sarah. She felt it in the pit of her stomach. Encounters with vulnerability were brewing, and she was about to confront her own reflection in the mirror of an unraveling family drama. As they climbed the stairs, the air heavy with anticipation, Sarah's mind raced with questions. What shadows lurked behind the closed door? Would she be able to stand tall against whatever truths would emerge? The uncertainty twisted in her mind, mingling with a frisson of excitement. She would need to fully engage with the messiness of reality, amplifying her courage. But before she could voice another thought, Alex stopped suddenly. "Sarah, are you ready for this? Because I'm not sure what we're walking into." His voice, tinged with anxiety, tugged at her heart. Glancing at the door before them, Sarah steeled her resolve. "As ready as I'll ever be." Let us do this. With a deep breath, he pushed the door open, revealing a confrontation that might shatter their newfound connection or could solidify it into something indomitable. Inside lay the chaos of Alex's past and the rawness of vulnerability, demanding to be faced, and Sarah was determined to meet it head-on. They stepped inside, where the weight of revelations waited. Would the truth elevate them, or would it sever the strings of newfound intimacy that bound them together? The door creaked open, revealing a dimly lit room cluttered with remnants of a life-interrupted torn papers strewn across a coffee table, an overturned chair, and the muted glow of an old lamp flickering in rhythm with Sarah's heartbeat. As they crossed the threshold, Sarah felt an eerie yet striking sensation, like stepping into a scene from a play where the ending was unwritten. Alex's hand slid from hers, his posture tensing. He stepped in front of her, a protective instinct guiding his movements. "Stay close," he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. She recognized the simmering vulnerability in his expression but also his determination to confront the chaos ahead. Her heart thrummed in her chest as they moved deeper into the room. The air felt electric, laden with the unsaid. She reminded herself that this was an opportunity, a chance to push through the uncertainty and reveal her capacity to support Alex. She had always thought of herself as someone who preferred to tread carefully, but tonight, she was ready to take a leap. "Jeremy?" "It's me, Alex," Alex called out, his voice clear yet strained. Silence knotted around them, and the lack of response sliced through the tension, intensifying Sarah's focus on Alex's taut frame. She could feel his anxiety radiating, intermingled with a sense of purpose. "Let us check the bedroom," Sarah suggested quietly, her voice steady. Inside, she was grappling with a mixture of fear and burgeoning courage. It was one thing to understand the need for personal growth, yet standing in the bubble of someone else's crisis was a deeper challenge. She wanted to be a source of strength, to prove to herself that she could face this complexity alongside someone she cared for. Alex nodded, leading the way as he opened another door, revealing a bedroom still too dark for comfort. Sarah's gut tightened, an instinct kicking in. She moved just behind him, aware of the many layers of emotion swirling between them. Whatever they would find next would require the fortitude to withstand their own vulnerabilities. Suddenly, a voice pierced the silence. "Get out. I don't want anyone here." It was strained yet oddly familiar, a brother's voice steeped in panic and despair. "Jeremy." Her heart raced at the rawness of the confrontation. She could feel Alex falter for a brief moment, and panic surged through her. This was where the real conflict began. "Alex," she implored softly. "You need to go to him. Let him know you're here." With a hesitant breath, Alex stepped forward, his back to her for a moment. She saw his shoulders rise as he clenched his fists. He was battling despair, an internal struggle that Sarah wished she could understand fully. Then, without warning, Alex turned, his voice stronger than before. "Jeremy, we're here for you. You're not alone anymore." With those words, the tension in the air shifted. Whatever happened next would clarify their bond not just as partners in their ambitions, but as two individuals facing the messiness of another's turmoil together. "I hope I can do this," she thought, a swell of determination bubbling within her. Yet she also felt the uncertainty pressing against her mind. Would her presence strengthen Alex during this crucial moment, or would it unravel something deeper between them? Suddenly, a figure stumbled into the light. Jeremy, disheveled and wild-eyed. The impact of his rough appearance hit Sarah like a physical force. He looked like a man lost within his own labyrinth of madness. "Why are you here?" Jeremy shot, the words laced with confusion and hurt. Each syllable struck her, testing her resolve. "We came to help you, to face whatever it is that has you trapped," Alex replied, his tone steady but edged with urgency, a subtle plea for brotherhood. Sarah felt herself drawn into Jeremy's turmoil, the rawness of the moment sparking recognition in her own heart. This was no longer about just Alex, it was a pivotal moment of discovery for all three of them. As she stepped forward, her own courage sparked a fire within. But you have to let us in. This isn't just your fight. Anymore. Each word cut through the fog. Would they break through the walls of pain together? But the look in Jeremy's eyes shifted from despair to uncertainty as layers of protection clashed against their desperate desire to reach him. Sarah sensed that the outcome of this encounter could either reinforce newfound bonds or lead to a reckoning that challenged everything they thought they understood about themselves and each other. Will he let us in? She questioned silently, knowing that the outcome was poised delicately on a knife's edge. In that moment, the complexity of family and vulnerability drew them all closer, yet that closeness also threatened to expose their deepest insecurities. As dark secrets lingered, Sarah braced for an emotional storm that might shake the very foundation of their budding connection. How they would face the chaos lay ahead, but one undeniable truth emerged: they had already crossed into unfamiliar territory, and there was no turning back now. "Leave me alone." Jeremy's voice was thick with desperation, his protest echoing in the cramped bedroom. The weight of his pain hung heavy in the air, a palpable force that pressed down on Sarah's chest. It was as if they stood at the edge of a precipice, teetering uncertainly, unsure if they would plunge into the depths of despair or step back to solid ground. "Jeremy, please." Alex's voice was strained, but the urgency was unmistakable. "We want to help you." He took a hesitant step forward, the oscillation between determination and fear playing out across his features. Sarah's thoughts spiraled in chaotic patterns. She had spent so long cultivating a careful life, seeking control in every nook of her existence. But here, standing in this dimly lit room, everything felt unpredictable. She could feel an echo of her own unresolved fears vibrating alongside the crisis unfolding before her. Each heartbeat reminded her that she had started this journey yearning for growth, and now she was facing the stark reality of that desire. "Why did you show up now?" Jeremy spat, the words drenched in hurt. "You don't understand." He backed away, eyes darting between Alex and Sarah, as if they were threats rather than allies. A rush of frustration surged through Sarah, a sudden urge to snap back, to reclaim control of the narrative that felt so out of her grasp. Instead, she softened her voice. "We understand more than you think," she said. "Alex cares about you. I care about you." With each word, she began to scratch away at the facade that Jeremy had built around himself. The familiarity of sorrow twisted her insides. It became clearer that his pain mirrored the chaos she had always avoided. This is not just a moment between brothers. It's larger than that. She felt a flicker of insight ignite within her, a revelation of her capabilities. She had never envisioned herself as an emotional fortress, yet the stakes felt too high to retreat into her usual shell of hesitation. Every moment presented a new revelation about who she could be, as much as it revealed the layers of Alex's burdens. She would no longer play the passive role of the observer. Jeremy remained tense, still perched on the edge of volatility. "What do you know about pain?" he challenged, his voice an unforgiving sword. "You don't know what it's like to feel abandoned." Sarah hesitated. In that question, she could feel the shadows of her own past creeping into the present. She thought of the moments when she had felt alone, a stranger in her own life, and the emotional distance she had constructed to protect herself. Yet this wasn't about her, it was about them. She inhaled deeply, ready to confront her own truths. "I know what it's like to feel lost, to feel like no one can possibly understand. But holding it all in only makes the darkness grow." For a heartbeat, silence enveloped them, and Sarah met Jeremy's fierce gaze with her own. She could see the clash of emotions flickering behind his eyes, the tension between surrender and self-preservation. "Let us in, Jeremy," she urged gently. "Whatever thoughts are twisting within you, share them. Whatever darkness you carry, we want to shoulder it with you." With those words weighed down by sincerity, she realized they formed a bridge, a chance to connect over shattered pieces instead of facing them alone. Alex's presence near her felt solid, a protective force that complemented her resolve. As they navigated this emotional minefield, Sarah could feel herself evolving in the process. Each deflected blow from Jeremy's words was molding her character, stripping away the layers of self-doubt. Slowly, Jeremy's defenses seemed to waver, that human instinct to connect flickering just beneath his tumultuous exterior. But then, in a sudden jerk, he averted his gaze, as if to avoid the encroaching light. "I can't let you get too close," he muttered, almost to himself. "What if I pull you down with me?" Sarah's heart thudded painfully in her chest, echoing a recent experience, the fear of being overwhelmed by someone's crisis. But perhaps this moment was not just a test of bravery for Jeremy, but for herself as well. She could have chosen to recoil, to keep her distance, but she was determined to step deeper into the abyss alongside him. "Let me be that choice," she said, raising her chin with newfound conviction. "This is a journey we can take together. You don't have to go through it alone anymore." The very air in the room seemed to shift as her words hung heavily in the silence. In that tension, the margins between love, trauma, and healing quivered. What realization might this spark in Jeremy? Would he begin to trust them? As she watched him struggle with the mounting weight of vulnerability, Sarah found herself holding her breath, knowing their next step could either build a new foundation of trust or fracture it even more. In that charged moment, she felt the weight of her choices. This was no longer about Alex's brother but also a defining chapter in her own journey. Would he take the leap? She wondered silently as they stood on the cusp of transformation, not just for Jeremiah, but for all of them. With those thoughts looming large in her mind, Sarah knew they were inching closer to a revelation, one that would unearth truths neither she nor Alex had anticipated. As shadows danced along the walls, she braced herself for the storm that was certain to follow. The silence in the room felt like a fraying thread, caught between the tension of the moment and the unspoken truths they were all grappling with. Jeremy's eyes darted away from Sarah's, refusing her plea, as if pulling away would keep the darkness at bay. It struck Sarah how much she wanted to reach him to illuminate the shadows he so desperately tried to navigate alone. Suddenly, a thought pierced through the tumult. This wasn't merely about fixing Jeremy. It was about redefining herself in the process. She had felt lost for so long, a passenger in her own life, but here she stood, focused and fierce. It dawned on her that confronting someone else's pain mirrored her own confrontation with the unresolved issues of her past. "Jeremy," she ventured, finding an unexpected strength in her voice, "the weight you're carrying doesn't have to be yours alone. We can help you lift it, but only if you allow us in." His face remained taut, an unreadable mask dawned in fear, but in that moment, something shifted. It was subtle, imperceptible, yet she felt it, the instinctual tug that sometimes exists when two hearts gravitate toward understanding each other. She wanted to be the one to loosen those chains. "Maybe you're right," he muttered under his breath, though the trembling resolve in his voice belied his uncertainty. "But you don't know how deep it goes." Sarah took a step closer, her presence unwavering, as if to dispel the doubt that enveloped him. "Show us," she whispered. "Let us see the depths of what you're feeling." As she reached out, her hand hovered in the air, aching for connection. Each second felt like an eternity, stretching between them, charged with unfiltered emotion. She could feel Alex's unwavering support at her back, solidifying her stance. Finally, Jeremy's defenses began to crack, like fractured glass yielding to pressure. "I don't want to drag you down. You don't understand what it's like to have hope ripped away." His voice faltered, revealing the rawness that lay beneath. Sarah was no stranger to that kind of despair. She recalled her own battles where each ray of light felt extinguished just as it emerged, and in this moment, she understood that sharing that pain was where connection began. "I know the feeling all too well, and while that despair can feel suffocating, it doesn't define you. You have the power to tell your own story." Those words seemed to resonate, carving a pathway through the fog. She witnessed him wrestling with the turbulence of his emotions, skirting the line between vulnerability and retreat. It was a fight she recognized well, she had wrestled similarly with her own ghosts and fears. "Can I tell you?" His voice cracked, vulnerability spilling into the air like a tentative plea. "Yes," Sarah breathed, heart racing. The anticipation of this moment sent electricity coursing through her being. She might not have all the answers, but she was here, standing steadfast, ready to navigate the depths alongside him. As Jeremy wrestled with his thoughts, Sarah felt herself at the precipice of a pivotal moment. This conversation held the potential to redefine not just Jeremy's path, but her own, a testament to their growth through grappling with the unresolved. "Maybe I need to hear your darkness," she continued, the openness in her voice a beckoning call. "Because, in sharing, we might just discover a light worth holding on to." In that charged silence, the thread of connection lingered on the edge of their collective breath. And as these uncharted waters loomed ahead, Sarah sensed the imminent truth struggling to break free from beneath the surface. What hidden territory might they uncover together in this intertwining of lives? Would this moment shatter the barriers, or would it send them spiraling into uncertainty? The storm of emotions rapidly coalesced, both frightening and exhilarating, and she braced for the tempest that promised to engulf them. How would Jeremy respond? Would this be the moment that changed everything for all of them? Something shifted in Jeremy's expression, uncertainty battling with a yearning for release. Sarah could see him teetering on the edge of a precipice, where insight could either illuminate his path or plunge him further into darkness. "You really want to know?" he asked, almost incredulous. Sarah steadied herself, bracing for the potential weight of his truth. "Yes, I do. We're in this together. You're not alone." His gaze hardened as if rehearsing a monologue in front of an audience that would judge him without mercy. "Every time I thought I was climbing back up, something else dragged me deeper down. I lost my father to his addiction. I watched him unravel, thought he would get better. Pain flickered in his eyes, raw and unfiltered. Then one day, he just disappeared. Spare me the hope, I learned that too late." It was a confession laced with bitterness, deep-rooted anguish spilling forth like a torrent. In that moment, Sarah recognized the intricate dance between his pain and her desire to help, an entanglement she had not anticipated. But beneath her burgeoning empathy, a fierce determination was ignited. If she could only find a way to turn this moment into a catalyst for both of them, perhaps they wouldn't just survive, they could thrive. "Jeremy, your father's struggles don't define you. They were his choices, not yours. You still get to dictate your own path. You can reshape that narrative." "Easier said than done," he snapped, anger pooling in his voice like storm clouds. "True. But worth it," she countered, intentionally lowering her tone, softening the sharp edges. "What if this is the moment you choose a different story? One where you fight for yourself?" The air became thick with tension, a tapestry woven from self-doubt and the faint glimmer of potential. Jeremy struggled, grappling with the weight of his memories, their claws dragging him back into a familiar abyss. Sarah sensed his internal turmoil, each nuance painted in hesitations and glances darting away as he wrestled with vulnerability. "Isn't it just easier to stay angry?" he murmured, almost as a self-justification. Sarah's heart raced as she recalled her own fervent battles with complacency, when it felt more comfortable to wrap herself in indignation than to risk the exposure of her own tragedies. "Yes, it is. But then we miss out on the life that could be what's possible when we step into our strength. I want to show you that. Don't you want to feel free of all of this?" His brow furrowed, a tempest raging within him as realization flickered across his features. He was at a crossroads, presented with an agonizing choice. Would he cling to the bitterness, or could he, if only for a moment, entertain a glimmer of hope? "I don't know if I can be free," he whispered, the admission laced with desperation. Suddenly, Sarah's own resolve solidified. It wouldn't be about unearthing Jeremy's darkness alone, it would also be about illuminating her own path. She had often let fear steer her decisions, and this moment in front of her was a chance for liberation, a shared journey that could fortify both of their futures. "Maybe that's where we start," she said, her voice steady yet warm. Let us explore that together. You don't have to carry this alone anymore. In that heartbeat of potential, she realized they were delving into the essence of their beings, his pain and her courage intertwining. The journey wouldn't be a straight path but a winding road peppered with trepidation and trial. Together, he echoed, testing the word as if it were foreign, a seed that needed nurturing. Yes, together, she affirmed, her spirit intertwining with his burgeoning hope. As the heaviness in the room began to lift, Sarah sensed the delicate emergence of possibility, a fragile but potent undercurrent that could carry them both away from despair. What started as a hesitant conversation transformed into something more, an alliance bound by the willingness to confront their respective pasts and step toward a united future. Yet even as the first light of change illuminated their hearts, a new tension lurked. Nearby. Unbeknownst to them, an unseen shadow had been watching, ready to pounce when they least expected it. What unforeseen challenge lay just beyond the horizon, waiting to test their resolve? As the atmosphere in the room shifted, the vulnerability shared between Jeremy and Sarah began weaving an intricate tapestry of hope. Their congestion of emotions clashed against the wall, creating a fabric that seemed more resilient with each exchange. Sarah stood firm, sensing the tide of uncertainty ebbing slightly, replaced by a nascent foundation of trust. Stepping into the unknown isn't easy, she reiterated, her voice steady. We're not here to fix you, but to stand alongside you. Just as you've faced loss, I've faced fears that seemed insurmountable. The weight of her past felt foreign now, viewed through the lens of courage. It took me time to recognize that my struggles didn't define me. They were merely chapters in a larger story. Jeremy blinked, the intensity of her words tapping into echoes of something he had long buried. How do you make peace with it all? My father's actions have been a never-ending source of chaos. It's hard to let go of that. People often mistake letting go with forgetting, Sarah replied. She stepped closer, inviting him into the warmth of genuine connection. It's not about erasing the past, it's about crafting a new narrative that honors those experiences without letting them hold you hostage. He searched her eyes for conviction and found the flames of determination blazing back. For the first time, he allowed himself to ponder what liberation might look like. If I were to try and rewrite my story, where do I even begin? His voice cracked, uncertainty lingering heavily. You start by accepting your history, acknowledging it, but refusing to let it dictate your future, she said, feeling her stance solidify. It might require revisiting painful memories, yes, but there's strength in doing so. You're not encountering these alone, Jeremy. Together, we can create another path. In that moment, the tension cracked. Jeremy's expression flickered, revealing a vulnerability he had fought so hard to conceal. As if a facet of himself was cautiously peeking through layers of armor. I've been so angry for so long, but maybe there's a little spark of wanting to let it go. That spark is more powerful than you realize. The conviction in her tone surged, embodying the courage she herself was nurturing. It's a starting point, a reason to fight for renewal, instead of defeat. What if I fail? Jeremy whispered, the honesty of that fear weighing heavily again, grounding the moment with a mix of exhilaration and uncertainty. Failure is simply feedback, Alex interjected, stepping forward after watching in supportive silence. It teaches us lessons that pave the way to success. I've failed more times than I can count, but each setback became a stepping stone toward something greater. Perhaps we could support each other through this, Sarah suggested, her heart racing at the prospect. It's not solely about Jeremy's healing, but about our collective growth. We're each in the process of writing new chapters in our lives, right? A newfound clarity shimmered in Jeremy's eyes as he absorbed their words. Feeling the weight of their solidarity, he opened his mouth to respond but hesitated as the door creaked behind them. Tension ricocheted through the air as Jeremy tensed immediately, and Alex instinctively moved closer to Sarah. Don't think we're done here, came a voice, laced with malice. They all turned to see a figure lingering at the threshold, eyes blazing, a specter of Jeremy's past emerging just as they had begun to forge a new future. "I knew you'd come back, Jeremy," it spat, a grin stretching unervingly across its face. "Traitor, bringing friends to your rescue? Is this how low you've fallen?" The shadows that had threatened to consume them before were now flooding back, more potent than ever. Sarah's heart raced, ready to emulate the courage they had just begun to explore, but a wave of doubt washed over her. Would this confrontation derail their momentary triumph? "Jeremy, stay strong," Alex whispered, determination ringing clearly in his voice, diverging from fear to strength. "I'm here to fight," Jeremy declared, surprising himself with the intensity of his tone. "I've spent too long hiding in fear, and if I have to face my past, I'll do it with courage. I won't let you dictate my worth or my choices anymore." For Sarah, witnessing the transformation unfold felt electrifying. She saw the spark ignite within Jeremy as he stood taller, even with the specter of his past looming outside his doorway. The potential for growth transformed this near confrontation into a grand opportunity for all three of them. "Together," she called out. "Strength lies not in isolation but solidarity." "What do you know about strength?" The figure jeered, but it was only a whisper against the resolve glowing in the room, an affirmation that their fears were nothing compared to the battles they were willing to take on together. "Strength is standing firm against past and present demons," Jeremy shot back, the fire in his spirit undeniable. "And right now, I choose to fight." The figure shared a fleeting glance with him, a crack of uncertainty forming in the guise of intimidation. Sarah could sense the energy shifting. The once solid stance of intimidation quaked against the onslaught of unity from the trio. "Fine," the figure growled, backpedaling into the shadows. "But this isn't over." They stood watching, breaths held, as the figure retreated into obscurity. "Did you see that?" Alex remarked, turning to them with awe. "We faced it together, and it worked." Cheers erupted in Sarah's heart, her spirit bursting with exhilaration at the sheer gravity of the triumph. It hadn't just been about confronting Jeremy's fears, it was about the entire metamorphosis, all three of them stepping closer to authenticity. With Jeremy finding his voice, a flicker of assuredness surrounded them, an affirmation of a path taken forward. "I want to create something positive," he asserted, voice steadying. "Let us begin a program to help others who feel this weight. We can channel our struggles together." Sarah's heart surged with pride, they were becoming architects of their destinies. "You're ready for this, Jeremy. We can turn our adversities into a force for change, not just for ourselves, but for others." "Yes, I saw the truth in your eyes tonight," Alex added, clapping a hand on Jeremy's shoulder, support radiating through his touch. "It's time to channel that intelligence and strength into something powerful." With their resolute bonds forming anew, they had faced not only Jeremy's past but had rewritten their potential future together. Their pathway was blossoming into a vibrant landscape, painted with the vivid hues of purpose and resilience. As hope began to permeate the air, Sarah marveled at how they had transformed, no longer just three lost souls bringing past burdens, but united individuals ready to tackle life's uncertainties together. The echoes of the night's struggles resonated profoundly within each of them. They were forged anew in the fire of confrontation and triumph, and at that moment, they realized they had become more than allies, they were bound as co-creators of their destinies. "Let us get started," Jeremy declared, a contagious excitement erupting. They stepped beyond the threshold of old fear, embracing the uncharted opportunity before them, igniting a passionate alliance to uplift not just themselves but others wrestling with similar battles. As excitement surged within the trio, a wave of anticipation washed over them, a resolute pledge to embrace the journey ahead, ready to confront the darkness together and illuminate the way for all who felt lost like they once had. And as the door closed behind them, a new chapter began, one steeped in determination, resilience, and unwavering companionship. The night stretched forward, pulsing with potential. With an unbreakable spirit, they took their first steps into a future bursting with the promise of transformation. It was time to engage the world. It was time to rise. Now more than ever, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show that you support these journeys. Comment your reactions and theories about this ending. Would love to hear how the transformation resonated with you. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this incredible conclusion. True fans of personal overcoming stories know just how vital it is to spread the message of hope and resilience.